Hi, I'm Fletcher Camino.
And I'm Flynn Camino.
Welcome to Bums Away. Now, it's the new year, and even though we should be looking forward to new releases, we're going to have a look at last year, and so the next couple of videos will be focusing on films that were released last year. And this week we're going to be looking at Avatar: The Way of Water, very highly anticipated, and we're just going to tell you our thoughts of it because we watched it very recently. We just want to tell you our very first impressions.
So when I watched the first Avatar, as soon as I watched it, I knew it was my favorite movie. I think I like this second one more because it builds on the universe in an unexpected way, and it builds the characters in an unexpected way, and it feels fresh and new while still keeping the same feel of the original.
I think that what I loved most about this version was that the world building of it, and that was a different part of the universe. You know, it's still on Pandora, but as opposed to the forests, it's now in the oceans, and I think that was a really interesting concept, because if it was the forest again, the entire movie was set in the forest, I feel like we've seen all these locations before, we've seen these characters relate to these locations before, it just feel like old news, sort of a stale sequel.
It isn't afraid to carry lots of subplots at once. Like it has one for all of Jake Sully's kids, and then there's one for Jake Sully and the baddies, and then Quaritch and his relationship with the characters. I mean, it's not like bloody Buckaroo Banzai. It's got, you know, you feel it developing and it feels natural. It doesn't feel hurried or rushed, and it keeps the movie exciting and fresh. And the whole new surroundings really makes it feel like the sequel, the first Avatar, deserves.
Yeah, absolutely. And people saying it's too long. If you cut it any shorter, if you start hacking bits out of that, it'd just feel like it was just cut up purposefully. I think it couldn't possibly go any shorter than it was. I think that's as short as anyone could get it, really.
If anything, I'd make it go for longer to develop those characters more. I felt
that's
like
what the sequel's for.
I just feel like I need to see more of these characters. There's something you can relate to. It doesn't get bogged down in like the teen stereotypes, even though like the main characters are pretty much teenagers. It doesn't get bogged down in those sort of stereotypes that you see in pretty much every single Disney movie. So I was shocked. I mean, I had high expectations, but I didn't think they'd be rewarded with an actual good movie. It's really amazing.
Well, absolutely. I find it incredibly interesting that there's a, what is it? Is it a 9-year gap? I think it's supposed to be like a 9 or 10-year gap between the first Avatar. And this or maybe 16. I don't know. It's a really big gap, and you're thrown in off the deep end. Straight off, it's just like, oh my god, suddenly there's a whole ton of new characters we have to deal with that we never had to deal with before. Suddenly it's a much bigger cast, and all this information is thrown at you, but it allows you to deal with it. I mean, the first like good half hour to 45 minutes of the movie is dedicated to introducing those characters and their personalities, and then the rest of the movie is sort of about evolving those characters as well as evolving the plot. It's really skillfully put together so that you don't feel overwhelmed. You feel like it's developing, and it gives you a chance to adjust.
But I think another great thing about the movie is that it doesn't get bogged down setting up its sequels. Instead of setting up like, oh, when they escaped, to like, you know, actually putting into lines or something, it actually just leaves questions unanswered. It takes away time instead of adding on stuff, setting it up.
We don't want to spoil too much here, but we think it's pretty safe because it was announced by James Cameron before Way of Water came out that Quaritch was going to be the villain. And I was very scared because, you know, Quaritch as a villain in the first one is pretty weak. You know, not like he's weak in the film, but like his character is weak. He's basically just this military guy who goes and smashes Na'vi. I mean, he doesn't have any weaknesses. There's nothing that you want to follow him by. He's just a bad guy, a means to an end. And so when they said I was going to be the villain for the next one, I was like, that's not going to work. But it works surprisingly well because they added aspects, and we won't spoil it, but he's now got a weakness. And it's a very important weakness that is going to be explored, I think, judging by the end of the movie, a lot in 3. And that means that the character suddenly has a new dimension. He's not unbeatable. There's something that you can beat him with, and it's an advantage that the heroes have got, and it's an extra aspect to the character. And I think that was really clever script writing by James Cameron.
I have to say there's great acting all around.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I can't really think of anyone who was annoying or just couldn't act. But I couldn't really think of anything that.
Yeah.
Mainly the acting felt such a big defining point. Like they could get anyone, but they got some no names. I mean, of course they got Kate Winslet. That was a big deal, but she wasn't really that as big a character as I was expected.
No, more of a sort of supporting character really, which was quite surprising.
They got a lot of different actors that I've never heard of, and they were all really great. Like one of the actors was, so no name. He didn't even have a wiki page.
I particularly think that Zoe Saldana and Sam Worthington just did a brilliant job of coming back into their roles. I mean, I think they started production in 2020, and that's 11 years after the original. I mean, that's incredible to slot back into that character so well after such a long time. I think they did just an incredible job of just re-immersing yourself and recommitting yourself to the character. And they stayed true to the character as well. The script and the actors both did a brilliant job of making sure that everything that they did was consistent with what they did in the original film, while also creating an arc and, completing an arc from the first film.
I like how it also didn't fall in like, the whole thing is they run away from the mean people and go to the islands in the sea and what could happen there? Well, they could have fallen into the old classic Disney trap of the clingy father. We've seen it in Ice Age. We've seen it in many franchises. He's actually is a good father. He's protecting them. He's a warrior, and sure he has some faults of running his family like a military platoon. But
that's exactly what I think that was so brilliant. I thought that that's how a soldier would respond to all that responsibility. He'd try to organize his family like a platoon.
But it isn't in a bad way. It isn't really focused on much, and he isn't put down. Nothing is taken away from his character because of the way he treats his family. He just learns through the experiences, and it's not really something that takes a lot of the character's attention. If Disney had done that movie, it would have been like
bad.
And the big dramatic scenes, the badly written dialogue about, oh no, you can't go on the big whale dolphin thing.
Yeah.
It would have been bad, but
yeah.
it seems original. I mean, many people probably be out there on YouTube pointing out the similarities to other movies, but it felt like it hadn't been done in such a big franchise before, and it just breathed so much life into what may have been a really tired formula.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I think. I think it could have been in serious danger of falling into the formulated family trap of just like dysfunctional family, not getting along. The sons feel like they're not appreciated.
Actually, there was a bit of.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a bit of that, but it wasn't. It wasn't formulated. It wasn't just like, oh god, this again. When they introduced all the characters at the start of the film, it was just like, oh god, are they gonna do the whole family thing? But I think it was different. It didn't feel like it was a formula. It definitely felt like you said, it wasn't a Disney film. It was a different sort of family dynamic that I thought worked really well, while also not being perfect, having flaws, having faults.
Well, because it is an alien culture, you can't expect to have the same troubles as as a Western family.
Now, we can't just do a completely positive review. We should really avoid doing that. I mean, he thinks the film is pretty much perfect, and I agree. I think in almost every way the film works brilliantly well.
Yeah, because Avatar was my favorite film, and now the sequel, I like it a little bit more. So I guess naturally that automatically makes it my favorite film.
And it's a beautiful film. Of course, the visuals are just spectacular. It's a whole other level.
Yeah, I don't want to mention that because everyone's going to be saying that's the defining point, and I don't want to touch on that. I want that to be a sub-point because I don't... I mean, I hate people who just say it's all in the visuals because it's a story they're telling, and it's a world they're creating. The visuals is an important part, sure, but... It's a story as much as anything else.
Oh, it's a saga, and it's going to be an epic saga, judging by just that movie and the sequels coming up. It's going to be fantastic and brilliant, but we should say something about it because I just think it's an incredible movie, which, well, you need to see it yourself. It's just incredible.
And if you have, then...
Well done. Anyway, and if I was one tiny thing, I think that as a tiny negative thing, I think that maybe at certain points the film felt a little stitched together. I felt like, I mean, it's following multiple storylines. I guess it's kind of unavoidable. You have, at a certain point in the movie, for a large part of the movie, you're following Quaritch and his platoon of bad guys who are hunting Jake Sully and his family, and Jake Sully and his family trying to fit into the new culture that they're in. And I felt like at some points the scenes just seemed a little bit chop and change together. I don't know how that would be smoothed out exactly. I'm just saying that occasionally I think that just it felt a little disjointed. But I think it's just a very small section. It's just like one point where I thought that could have been a little smoother. But apart from that, I think the whole movie is extraordinarily put together. Definitely, absolutely recommend watching it. Yeah.
I do have one more negative.
One more negative.
As a bit of a film score buff, I have to say that the composer they've got in to compose the film cannot fill James Horner's shoes. This composer has no idea what he's doing. He's using the musical cues all wrong. The leitmotifs have just been using in the wrong subtext. If I knew more about the Avatar universe and if there were more movies,
There.
I'd probably know more about the subtext he's giving and it'd probably be bad. So I have to say, if you're a soundtrack buff, do not buy the soundtrack, do not invest any money in it. It's a big disappointment.
Apart from those things, I think none of these negatives should prevent you from watching this. It's definitely the best film, in my opinion, of 2022, and you should totally watch it. It's going to be...
Find a cinema,
it's a
just
classic.
drive there, any direction,
Just-
and maybe
just
if you
go.
find it...
Go watch it now.
It's going to be on Disney Plus. I hate Disney, but they're the only people who have it, so
Yeah.
find it. Unless you can find a bootleg copy that's been pirated.
Shh, we don't endorse that. Shh.
We'll probably have one.
Thank you for watching our review on Avatar: The Way of Water. Really, really hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is our first film review, so, you know, just
Go easy on us.
yeah.
We realized that we talk about movies just way too much, and so we decided, okay, we should share some of our thoughts with you guys.
Yeah, and since, you know, we thought it may be interesting that, for people to have our opinions, because most of the reviews out there are from middle-aged to 80-year-olds who are eating most of their food out of a straw. It's to have another opinion.
From the
youth. From the youth. I just think it'd be great to have another opinion. So please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and just...
If you have a movie idea for us for us to review, please put it down in the comments below, and we'll try our best to review it. Now, there's going to be a lot of new content coming up, so definitely subscribe and hit the bell button for a notification when something new comes in, because we're going to be doing these reviews. We're going to try to do one every week. For a little while, we're going to be reviewing movies of 2022 in a sort of a quick series about the best and the worst of 2022, the big releases.
And then we're going to do some videos on underrated movies and overrated movies.
Whole ton of stuff.
May step on some toes there.
Yeah,
But,
just a whole ton of stuff. So, like, subscribe, hit the bell button, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.